Rain drummed against the windows of the skyscraper in Gangnam district, blurring the lights of nighttime Seoul into indistinct spots. Choi Sanwook stood by the panoramic window of his office on the 47th floor, watching the anthill of the city below. In the glass reflection, his face was visible, sharp cheekbones, dark hair slicked back, and eyes the color of black onyx that held no room for compassion. He was only 28, but the last 3 years had transformed him into a man who could make hardened criminals tremble with a single glance. 3 years ago, he had been an ordinary MBA student at Stanford, dreaming of his own tech startup. But a sniper's bullet that pierced his father's heart, Choi Dong-sik, turned his dreams to ash in an instant. Gangnam, came a voice from behind the door. Representatives from Busan have arrived. Sanwook didn't turn around. Hyun Min-dae, his right-hand man and the only person he trusted, always spoke quietly. In their world, loud voices attracted unwanted attention. Let them wait, Sanwook replied coldly. First, we need to resolve the matter with the laundries. Laundries. That's what they called the businesses through which they laundered money. Sanwook was sick of this world, but there was no choice. The Choi Empire was built on blood and fear, and now, after his father's death, someone tested his strength every day. Min-dae entered the office, a stocky man of about 40 with a face marked by scars. He had served Sanwook's father for more than 15 years and was the only one who had seen how the boy transformed into a ruthless heir. Gangnam, there's news from Han Jing-wook. Sanwook turned around. Han Jing-wook was his uncle on his mother's side and formally, a partner. In reality, he had been hungry for power ever since Dong-sik married his sister 30 years ago. Speak. He's proposing cooperation. Wants to meet tomorrow evening at the Golden Dragon restaurant. Sanwook smirked, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Uncle is getting impatient. What else? The mayor of Seoul has approved our sponsorship application for the White Swan Ballet Academy. The amount is 5 billion won per year. Sanwook nodded. To hide his criminal connections, the mafia boss had become a sponsor of a prestigious ballet academy. This was Mindy's idea, to create a respectable image through charity. Ballet seemed like the perfect cover, elitist, far from criminal dealings, attracting the attention of high society. Tomorrow evening there will be a closed show for sponsors, Min-dae continued. You need to appear. The press will be there. Good. Sanwook turned back to the window. Now bring the representatives from Busan. It's time to show them who's in charge here. On the opposite end of the city, in a cramped apartment, Lee Si-yu was tying the ribbons of old point shoes. Her fingers were pricked by the needle. She sewed the ribbons herself, saving every one. In the corner of the room, her mother, No Hyojin, slept on a folding bed. She worked as a cleaner in 3 different office buildings to pay for her daughter's academy tuition. Lee Si-yu was 22 years old, and she had been dancing since she learned to walk. Her father left the family when she was 5, leaving behind only debts and her mother's broken heart. Since then, they had lived together, and every day was a struggle for survival. But when Lee Si-yu danced, the world disappeared. There was no cramped apartment, no shame for old clothes, no glances from classmates who looked at her like dirt under their feet. There was only music, only movement, only flight. Lee Si-yu, her mother whispered, waking up. Tomorrow is the closed evening, right? Yes, Mom. Lee Si-yu turned to her mother and smiled. Professor Park said I was included in the program. I'll be dancing a solo from Giselle. Hyojin sat up in bed. Even in the dim light, it was visible how emaciated her once beautiful mother had become. Working 3 shifts exhausted her, but she never complained. I'm so proud of you, my daughter. Your father. She hesitated. Your father would be proud. Lee Si-yu pressed her lips together. She had long stopped thinking about her father. A man who abandons his family for another woman doesn't deserve even memories. Mom, don't. We're fine together. Hyojin stood up and approached her daughter. Her hands, roughened by chemicals and constant work, gently touched Lee Si-yu's face. Tomorrow there will be important people. Sponsors. If any of them notice you. Mom, I just want to dance. Not think about anything else. I know, dear. But sometimes you need to be practical. Your talent is our ticket to a better life. Lee Si-yu nodded, though something inside her clenched. She understood her mother, but dreamed of the day when she could dance not for money or recognition, but simply because she couldn't live without it. Outside the window, the clock on the neighboring church struck. Midnight. Tomorrow would be a new day, a new chance to prove that a girl from the basement could dance no worse than princesses from wealthy families. The White Swan Academy was located in the prestigious Cheongdam-dong district, in a building that looked more like a palace. White columns, marble stairs, crystal chandeliers, everything here screamed luxury and status. Lee Si-yu always felt like an imposter walking through these halls. Tonight the academy was decorated especially lavishly. A closed show for sponsors and high society representatives, an event that happened once a year. Lee Si-yu changed into her only concert costume, a white tunic that her mother had altered from an old dress. On her feet were those same point shoes she had mended for the third time. Look who's honored us with their presence, came a familiar voice from behind. Lee Si-yu turned around and saw Kim Yoo-jin, daughter of the owner of Korea's largest department store chain. Next to her stood her constant companions, Lee So-hyun and Park Min-ju. All three were dressed in designer costumes, their hair styled by professional stylists. Lee Si-yu, Yoo-jin smiled sweetly, are you sure your place is here? Maybe you got the wrong address? I'm dancing in the program, Lee Si-yu replied quietly, trying to walk past. So-hyun blocked her way. And those rags? And in those awful point shoes? On stage, what matters isn't what you're wearing, Lee Si-yu tried to defend herself. How naive, Min-ju laughed. The most influential people in the country will be here. Do you think they'll want to look at this? Yoo-jin came closer. Evil sparks danced in her eyes. Lee Si-yu, you know what? I'll make you a deal. Give up performing tonight, and I'll give you money for new point shoes. Good, professional ones. I don't need them, Lee Si-yu replied coldly. Then don't be upset about what happens next. Yoo-jin sharply pushed Lee Si-yu in the shoulder. The girl, not expecting the attack, lost her balance and fell. Her old point shoes squeaked as they slid across the marble floor. What are you doing here, dirt from the basement? Yoo-jin hissed, leaning over Lee Si-yu. This is a stage, not a street. Ballet is not for the poor. Lee Si-yu tried to get up, but So-hyun put her foot on her hand. Know your place and stay in it. At that moment, the hall became very quiet. The girls felt someone's presence and turned around. Choi Sanwook stood a few meters away from them, and his presence changed the atmosphere in the hall. He was dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit, a white shirt emphasizing his dark skin. His hair was slicked back, revealing a high forehead and a piercing gaze. But Lee Si-yu was struck not by this. She saw something else, a barely noticeable sadness in his eyes, as if this man carried the weight of the entire world. Yoo-jin instantly changed her facial expression, transforming into the embodiment of innocence. Oh, Mr. Choi. We didn't know you had already arrived. We were just helping this girl get up. Sanwook didn't respond. He was looking at Lee Si-yu, who was still sitting on the floor, her face burning with humiliation. In her eyes, he saw something he hadn't seen in years, genuine pride, unbroken by circumstances. The man approached and, without taking his eyes off the frightened ballerina, said to the others, remember. From this day on, she is my personal invitation to the stage. Yoo-jin paled. But Mr. Choi, you don't understand, I understand more than you think, Sanwook coldly interrupted her. He extended his hand to Lee Si-yu, helping her up. Their fingers touched, and the girl felt a strange warmth spreading throughout her body. And then, turning to her, he said quietly, "Your choreography can conquer the world. But first, you must conquer me." Lee Si-yu looked at him with wide-open eyes. This man was dangerous, she felt it with every cell of her body. But at the same time, there was sincerity in his words that made her forget to breathe. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Don't say anything. Just dance. Show me what you feel." Min-dae appeared next to Sanwook, casting a wary glance at the girl. "Hi Gangnam, the program is starting." Coming, Sanwook nodded, but his gaze was still fixed on Lee Si-yu. "What's your name?" "No, Lee Si-yu." "Lee Si-yu," he repeated slowly, as if tasting the name. "Beautiful name. I hope the dance will be the same." He turned and left, leaving Lee Si-yu standing in the middle of the hall in complete confusion. Yujin and her friends hastily disappeared, not wanting to attract more attention from the formidable sponsor. The main hall of the academy was packed. The cream of Seoul society, businessmen, politicians, representatives of chaebols, sat in the front rows. Lee Si-yu peeked from behind the curtains, her heart beating so loudly that it seemed the entire hall could hear it. She found that man with her eyes as Choi Sanwook. He sat in the front row, his face impassive, but she felt that he was watching her. "No, Lee Si-yu, are you ready?" asked Professor Park Sun-hee, the academy director. "Yes, Professor. Remember, tonight is a very important evening. Many of those present can influence your career." Lee Si-yu nodded, though she was thinking only of one person in the hall. The music began. The melody of Giselle filled the space, and Lee Si-yu stepped onto the stage. In the first seconds, she felt dozens of eyes on her, heard whispers in the hall. Her costume looked poor against the backdrop of the luxurious hall, her pointe shoes creaked more than necessary. But then the music captured her. Lee Si-yu forgot everything, about poverty, about mockery, about the stranger in the front row. She was Giselle, a peasant girl who loved a prince without knowing his true position. Every movement told a story: naive love, betrayal, death, and forgiveness. The hall gradually fell silent. Even those who came here out of politeness couldn't take their eyes off the fragile figure on stage. Lee Si-yu wasn't dancing with technique, she was dancing with her soul. Sanwook sat motionless, but inside him a storm was raging. He had seen much in his life, but had never seen such pure beauty. This girl danced as if for the last time, putting her entire life into every movement. When the music faded, the hall erupted in applause. Lee Si-yu bowed, her face glowing with happiness. She found Sanwook with her eyes and saw that he was clapping slowly, not taking his eyes off her. After the performance, several people approached her with congratulations, but Lee Si-yu was looking for only one. "Excellent," came a familiar voice from behind. She turned around. Sanwook stood very close, and she caught the light scent of his cologne, something expensive and masculine. "Thank you," she whispered. "Did you dance for me?" The question caught her off guard. I danced Giselle." "No," Sanwook shook his head. "You danced your story. The story of a girl who knows what pain is." Lee Si-yu looked at him with surprise. How could he guess so accurately? "How do you know?" "Pain has a special language. And you spoke it today." The next day, Lee Si-yu came to the academy earlier than usual. She hoped that after yesterday's success, her day would pass peacefully, but fate decided otherwise. "Lee Si-yu," Professor Park called her. "You have a visitor." In the director's office sat Hyun Min-dae. Lee Si-yu recognized him. Yesterday he stood next to Sanwook. "Please sit down," he said politely. "My name is Hyun Min-dae. I represent the interests of Mr. Choi Sanwook." Lee Si-yu sat on the edge of the chair, feeling tense. "Mr. Choi would like to offer you special learning conditions." "What conditions?" personal lessons with the best teachers, a new costume and shoes, as well as a scholarship of 3 million won per month. Lee Si-yu nearly fell off her chair. 3 million won was her mother's salary for 6 months of work. In exchange for what? In exchange, Mr. Choi wants you to dance at private events for his guests. Nothing complicated, once or twice a month. And if I refuse? Min-dae smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Choi is not used to refusals. But he also doesn't force anyone. The choice is yours. Lee Si-yu was silent. The offer was generous, suspiciously generous. Something wasn't right here. I need time to think. Of course. Until tomorrow evening. When Min-dae left, Professor Park sat next to Lee Si-yu. Lee Si-yu, this is an incredible opportunity. Mr. Choi is one of the most influential people in the country. What do you know about him? The professor thought. He's young, rich, inherited the business after his father's death. He's involved in various enterprises. Various? Construction, real estate, restaurants. A very successful man. Lee Si-yu nodded, but her intuition told her that the professor didn't know everything. That evening, Lee Si-yu sat in her apartment and looked at her sleeping mother. Hyojin had come home from work completely exhausted. Today she had to wash windows in a 30-story building. 3 million won per month could change their lives. Her mother wouldn't need to work 3 shifts anymore. They could move to a normal apartment, buy good food, maybe even go to the sea. But something in Sanwook's eyes and in Mindy's words made her doubt. She took out her old phone and dialed her best friend John Hoseon, who worked as a journalist for a small newspaper. Lee Si-yu? What happened? It's almost midnight. Hoseon, can you find out something about a person named Choi Sanwook? Choi Sanwook? Wait. That's the son of Choi Dong-sik, the one who was shot 3 years ago. Shot? Lee Si-yu, don't you read newspapers? Choi Dong-sik was one of the most influential businessmen in the country. Officially, he was involved in construction, but there were rumors that he had connections with organized crime. Lee Si-yu felt a chill run down her spine. And the son? After his father's death, he inherited everything. A very secretive person, rarely appears in public. But they say he's even more ruthless than his father was. Hoseon, are you sure? Lee Si-yu, why are you asking? You're not. Thank you, Hoseon. See you tomorrow. Lee Si-yu hung up the phone and closed her eyes. Now she understood what she had felt looking at Sanwook. The danger emanating from him wasn't just like that, he belonged to a world she only knew from crime news. But at the same time, she remembered his gaze during her dance. There was no cruelty in it. There was sadness, loneliness, and something else she couldn't understand. But not cruelty. The next evening, Lee Si-yu came to the academy at the appointed time. Sanwook was waiting for her in the small hall where individual lessons usually took place. He stood by the window, and the evening light made his silhouette even more mysterious. You came, he said without turning around. Yes. And what's your decision? Lee Si-yu was silent, gathering her thoughts. Before I answer, I want to know something. Now he turned to her. Surprise flickered in his eyes. Ask. Who are you really? Sanwook smirked. Straightforward. I like that. Please answer. He came closer. Lee Si-yu forced herself not to step back, although his presence affected her strangely. You already know the answer. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask. I know that your father. My father was killed 3 years ago. And yes, he wasn't an ordinary businessman. Lee Si-yu swallowed. And you? And I inherited his business. All of his business. Why are you telling me this? Sanwook stopped very close to her. She could feel the warmth of his body and fought the desire to step back. Because you're not like the others. You're not afraid of the truth. I am afraid, Lee Si-yu admitted honestly. But I want to know. Want to know what? Why you need me? The real reason. Sanwook looked at her for a long time, as if deciding whether he could trust her. Yesterday, when you danced, I felt something other than emptiness for the first time in 3 years. You reminded me that there is beauty in the world. And that's why you want to buy me? I don't want to buy you, he replied sharply. I want to protect you. From this world. From people like those girls yesterday, he said, spreading his arms. But in return, I'll have to dance for your guests? For my business partners, yes. Nothing complicated. Just beauty among beasts. Lee Si-yu closed her eyes. The offer was tempting and terrifying at the same time. And if I refuse? Then you'll dance in your old point shoes, endure the mockery of rich girls, and watch your mother work herself to death. The words were cruel but true. Is this blackmail? This is reality. Lee Si-yu opened her eyes and looked at him. There was no cruelty in his face, only the fatigue of a man who knew too well how the world worked. All right, she said quietly. I agree. The next 2 weeks turned Lee Si-yu's life upside down. In the morning, a black Bentley picked her up and took her to the academy, where she worked with Korea's best teachers. After lunch, personal training with a choreographer who worked with soloists from the Bolshoi Theater. They bought her new costumes, professional point shoes, even enrolled her in a gym to maintain physical fitness. Lee Si-yu felt like she was in a fairy tale, but a disturbing fairy tale. Sanwook appeared rarely, usually at the end of the day to watch her progress. He spoke little, but his presence made her dance better than she ever had. You learn quickly, he said once after a particularly difficult training session. I have good teachers, Lee Si-yu replied, wiping sweat from her face. It's not about the teachers. You have something that can't be taught. What exactly? Passion. Real passion for what you do. They stood in the empty hall, and their voices echoed off the mirrored walls. Do you have passion for what you do? Lee Si-yu unexpectedly asked. Sanwook smirked, but the smile was bitter. Passion? He repeated. No, Lee Si-yu. I only have obligations. But there was once something you loved? He was silent for a long time, looking in the mirror where their silhouettes were reflected. Once I wanted to become an architect. Build houses, not destroy lives. Why didn't you? Because a sniper's bullet decided for me. There was such pain in his voice that Lee Si-yu felt a desire to approach and hug him. But she didn't dare. I have to go, Sanwook said, abruptly changing the subject. Tomorrow we have our first event. A reception for Japanese investors. What will I need to do? Just dance. Show them that Korean art can be perfect. When he left, Lee Si-yu remained alone in the hall. She approached the mirror and looked at her reflection. An expensive costume, professional hairstyle, new point shoes, outwardly she looked like a real ballerina from high society. But inside she remained a girl from the basement who now danced for the mafia. The Golden Crane restaurant was one of the most expensive in Seoul. The private hall on the top floor accommodated no more than 20 people, but each of those present could buy and sell half the city. Lee Si-yu stood behind the curtain of the improvised stage and heard voices in Japanese and Korean. The men discussed some deals, laughter occasionally rang out. Ready? Sanwook asked, appearing next to her. He was dressed in a dark gray suit, his hair slicked back. He looked like a successful businessman, but Lee Si-yu knew the truth. I think so. Don't think. Be sure. These people sense weakness like sharks sense blood. And if I make a mistake? Sanwook looked at her attentively. You won't make a mistake. You're too good for that. There was such confidence in his voice that Lee Si-yu felt her fears recede. The music began. Lee Si-yu chose an excerpt from Swan Lake, Odette's part. She stepped onto the improvised stage and saw 24 male faces turn toward her. At first, conversations continued, but gradually the hall fell silent. Lee Si-yu danced the story of a princess turned into a swan by an evil sorcerer, and her movements were so expressive that even these hard businessmen forgot about their deals. Sanwook stood by the wall and couldn't take his eyes off the dancing girl. She was beautiful, not just pretty, but beautiful with that beauty that comes from within. And at that moment, he realized that his feelings for her had long gone beyond simple patronage. When the dance ended, the hall erupted in applause. One of the Japanese businessmen even stood up from his seat. Ito-san, Sanwook addressed him in Japanese, I hope our art made an impression on you. More than an impression, Choi-san. It was magical. Lee Si-yu bowed and wanted to go behind the curtain, but Sanwook stopped her with a gesture. Join us at the table, he said. The gentleman would like to meet you personally. The next hour was a trial for Lee Si-yu. The men asked questions about ballet, about her training, about her future plans. She answered politely, but felt that some of them looked at her not as an artist, but as a beautiful toy. Particularly unpleasant was Yamamoto-san, an elderly man with sticky eyes who never stopped commenting on her appearance. So young, so flexible, he said, leaning too close. In Japan, we highly value Korean dancers. Lee Si-yu clenched her fists under the table but continued to smile. I'm glad you enjoyed my dance. Dance? Oh yes, of course. But I'm thinking of other possibilities for cooperation. Yamamoto's hand fell on Lee Si-yu's shoulder, and she felt disgust. Excuse me, she said, standing up. I need to. Yamamoto-san, Sanwook interrupted, and ice sounded in his voice. I think the miss is tired. Allow me to escort her. The Japanese man removed his hand, but irritation flashed in his eyes. Of course, Choi-san. But later we could. Later we'll discuss contracts, Sanwook coldly finished. Only contracts. In the car, Lee Si-yu was silent. Sanwook glanced at her several times but also didn't speak. Only when they drove away from the restaurant did he break the silence. Sorry about Yamamoto. He doesn't always behave appropriately. Is this part of the job? Lee Si-yu asked quietly. What exactly? Tolerating such men. Letting them touch. Sanwook braked sharply and stopped the car by the roadside. He turned to her, and anger burned in his eyes. No one dares touch you without your permission. No one. But if it's needed for your deals. To hell with the deals, he said sharply. You're not merchandise, Lee Si-yu. You're an artist. Then why did you save me? The question sounded unexpected, and Sanwook froze. What? Then, at the academy. Why did you stand up for me? You didn't know me before that. Sanwook turned away and looked out the window. You reminded me of someone. Who? My sister. Lee Si-yu knew nothing about Sanwook's sister. The newspapers didn't write about her. Tell me about her. Sanwook was silent for a long time, and Lee Si-yu thought he wouldn't answer. But then he spoke without turning to her. Her name was Choi Suwon. She was 3 years younger than me. She wanted to become a ballerina. Wanted? She died in the same shootout as my father. She was 22 years old. Like you are now. Lee Si-yu felt her throat tighten. I'm so sorry. She was talented. Very talented. But father forbade her from pursuing ballet professionally. He said it wasn't for Choi Dong-sik's daughter. Did she listen to him? No, Sanwook finally turned to her. She was stubborn. Like you. She trained in secret, dreamed of entering the academy. And on the day she was going to audition, she was killed. My God. When I saw you there, on the floor, humiliated by those girls, I saw her. And I realized I couldn't let it happen again. Lee Si-yu reached out and touched his palm. He didn't pull his hand away, and she felt his fingers intertwine with hers. You're not to blame for her death. I am to blame. If I hadn't gone to study in America, if I had stayed home, I could have protected her. Then they would have killed you too. Sanwook looked at her with surprise. Would that have upset you? Lee Si-yu realized they had approached a dangerous line. But she couldn't lie. Yes. Very much. After that night, something changed in their relationship. Sanwook began coming to the academy more often, sometimes just sitting and watching Lee Si-yu train. They talked about ballet, about music, about life. Gradually, Lee Si-yu got to know the person hiding behind the mask of the ruthless heir. Sanwook told her about his studies at Stanford, about how he dreamed of creating an architectural firm, building structures that would make Seoul more beautiful. About how all his plans collapsed in one day. And now I'm building an empire on bones, he said one evening. They were sitting in the empty hall after training, and the setting sun painted the walls in golden light. It doesn't have to be that way, Lee Si-yu objected. What do you mean? You can change what your company does. Direct the money towards something good. Sanwook smirked. Just like that? Why not? You're the boss. You can decide. Lee Si-yu, you don't understand. In our world, you can't just up and leave. Too many people depend on the system. Too many enemies are waiting for a sign of weakness. But you could try? Sanwook looked at her with a long gaze. Do you believe people can change? I believe you've already changed. What makes you think so? 3 months ago, you wouldn't have stood up for a stranger. And you certainly wouldn't have told her about your sister. Maybe you're just a bad influence on me, Sanwook said, but there was warmth in his voice. Then I'll be an even worse influence, Lee Si-yu laughed. This was the first time he heard her laugh, and Sanwook realized he was ready to do anything to hear it again. Meanwhile, Han Jing-uk, Sanwook's uncle, was becoming increasingly impatient. He had been waiting for 6 months for his nephew to make a mistake that would allow him to seize control of the Choi Empire. He's gone soft, Jing-uk told his men at a secret meeting. He's wasting time on some dancer instead of taking care of business. Hyunnim, maybe it's just an infatuation. One of his assistants carefully suggested. An infatuation? Jing-uk slammed his palm on the table. He canceled 3 important operations last week. Said he was looking for legal alternatives. Legal? What do you propose? Sanwook has forgotten where his power came from. It's time to remind him. At the same time, Min-dae was reporting to Sanwook about growing discontent in the organization's ranks. Hyunnim, people are starting to doubt. Especially after you refused the deal with the Hong Kong Triad. That deal involved human trafficking, Sanwook replied coldly. We don't do that. Your father used to. My father is dead. Now I decide. Min-dae was silent, then carefully asked, is this because of the girl? Sanwook looked up from his documents. What? Lee Si-yu. Your changes began after meeting her. Min-dae, you're crossing the line. Hyunnim, I served your father for 15 years. I've seen what happens to people in our world when they fall in love. It makes them vulnerable. Who said I'm in love? No one said it. But I have eyes. Sanwook leaned back in his chair. Min-dae was right, he was changing. And Lee Si-yu was the reason for these changes. What do you suggest? Either let her go. Or be ready to defend her to the end. Defend her from whom? From everyone, brother. From everyone. Chapter, The conspiracy. The next evening, Lee Si-yu was dancing at another private reception. This time the event was held at the home of one of Sanwook's partners, and the atmosphere was more relaxed. After the performance, Lee Si-yu went to freshen up in the ladies' room when she heard familiar voices behind the office door. "The nephew is too soft for this business," said a male voice she didn't recognize. "Han SSI is right," another replied. "Choi Sanwook has forgotten his father's precepts. We need to act quickly before he completely destroys what took decades to build." Lee Si-yu froze. They were talking about Sanwook, and their voices carried an open threat. "What about the girl? The dancer? She knows too much. And she's also distracting Sanwook from important matters." "Han SSI, are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we remove all unnecessary factors. All of them." Lee Si-yu felt the blood drain from her face. They were planning to kill not only Sanwook but her as well. She quietly crept down the corridor, found Sanwook, and asked him to take her home, claiming she felt unwell. In the car, she didn't dare tell him about the conversation she'd overheard. What if Sanwook thought she was lying? Or what if he decided it would be safer to send her away? "Lee Si-yu, did something happen?" he asked. "You're very pale." "Just tired." "Maybe you should take a vacation? Go somewhere to rest?" "No," she replied too sharply. I don't want to go anywhere." Sanwook looked at her suspiciously but didn't ask any more questions. The next day, Lee Si-yu couldn't stand it and told Sanwook everything. They sat in his office, and he listened without interrupting. "Are you sure it was Han Jing-uk's voice?" he asked when she finished. "I've never heard him speak, but one of the men called the other Han SSI." Sanwook stood up and paced around the office. "So Uncle has decided to act openly." "Sanwook," Lee Si-yu stood up and approached him, "maybe we should go to the police." "To the police?" He smirked. "Lee Si-yu, half of Seoul's police department is in his pocket." "Then what do we do?" Sanwook stopped and looked at her. "You need to leave. Right now." "What?" "I'll arrange for you and your mother to move to another country. America, Canada, Australia, choose. I'll give you money, documents, everything you need." "Sanwook, I won't go." "Lee Si-yu, you don't understand the seriousness of the situation. Han Jing-uk won't stop at anything." "I understand. But I won't leave you." "Won't leave me?" He came very close to her. "Lee Si-yu, we've known each other for only 4 months. You don't have to." "I love you," Lee Si-yu interrupted him. The words rang out in the silence of the office, and both froze. Lee Si-yu hadn't planned to say this, but now that the words were spoken, she realized they were true. "Lee Si-yu, I know it's stupid. I know we're from different worlds. But I love you, and I won't leave you in danger." Sanwook looked at her for a long time, and different feelings battled in his eyes. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do know. And I know that you love me too." "Even if that's true," he said quietly, "it doesn't change anything. I can't put you in danger." "Then change everything." Lee Si-yu took his hands. "Leave this world. We can start over." "Lee Si-yu, you can't just up and leave." "You can. If you want to." Sanwook freed his hands and turned away. "Even if I wanted to, Uncle wouldn't let me do it alive." "Then we'll find a way to stop him." "We?" Lee Si-yu nodded. "We." The next few days passed in tense planning. Sanwook understood that they had little time. Han Jing-uk acted quickly and decisively. "I have recordings," Sanwook told Lee Si-yu and Min-dae during a secret meeting. Father kept detailed documentation of all operations, including those Han Jing-uk participated in. "Hyungnim, this could be dangerous," Min-dae warned. "If these recordings fall into the prosecutor's hands, That's exactly where they should go, Sanwook said firmly. Min-dae looked at him with amazement. You want to turn in your own organization? I want to end this once and for all. What about your people? Many of them served your father for years. Those who haven't stained their hands with blood, I'll provide with legal work. The rest chose their own path. Lee Si-yu listened to the conversation, feeling pride for Sanwook and simultaneously fear for him. She understood that he was sacrificing everything he had for a new life with her. There's one problem, Min-dae said. The recordings are stored in a safe at Han Jing-uk's house. He took them after your father's death. Then we need to get them back. Hyung-im, that's practically suicide. The house is guarded better than the presidential residence. Sanwook thought. What if we lure Uncle to another place? How? Lee Si-yu will be the bait. What? Lee Si-yu and Min-dae exclaimed simultaneously. No, Lee Si-yu said categorically. I won't let you use me as bait. It's the only way, Sanwook insisted. Han Jing-uk considers you my weakness. If you're in danger, he'll leave the house to personally control the situation. What if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong. I won't let it. Min-dae shook his head. Too risky, Hyung-im. We have no choice, Sanwook replied sharply. Either we act now, or tomorrow we'll all be dead. The plan was simple and dangerous at the same time. Lee Si-yu was supposed to go to evening training at the academy, as usual. There she would be kidnapped by Han Jing-uk's people. Sanwook had already made sure that information about her whereabouts reached his uncle. While Han Jing-uk dealt with Lee Si-yu, Sanwook and Min-dae would break into his house for the recordings. If something goes wrong, Sanwook told Lee Si-yu one last time, run. Don't think about me, just run. Nothing will go wrong, she replied firmly. We agreed, we're in this together. That evening, Lee Si-yu came to the academy at the appointed time. The building was almost empty, only a security guard in the lobby and a few cleaners on the upper floors. She went up to her hall and began warming up, listening to every sound. After an hour of waiting, her nerves were stretched to the limit. Finally, she heard footsteps in the corridor. The door burst open, and 3 men in dark suits entered. Lee Si-yu recognized one of them. It was the same man who had called someone Han SSI at that reception. No Lee Si-yu? He asked with a polite smile. Yes. You need to come with us. Where? To someone who wants to talk to you. Lee Si-yu feigned fear. I'm not going anywhere. Who are you? Miss, don't complicate the situation. Come voluntarily. No. One of the men stepped forward, but at that moment a shot rang out. Lee Si-yu turned around and saw Han Jing-uk himself in the doorway of the hall. He was a man of about 50, with graying temples and cold eyes. In his hand, he held the pistol from which he had just fired at the ceiling. Enough theater, he said, entering the hall. Miss, no, I think we can talk like civilized people. Lee Si-yu backed up to the mirrored wall. What do you want? I want to talk about my nephew. He's changed a lot lately. And I think you know why. I don't know what you're talking about. Han Jing-uk smirked. Don't pretend. Sanwook is in love with you. And men in love do stupid things. What stupid things? Like trying to become honest, Han Jing-uk came closer. Or deciding they can change the family business. Lee Si-yu realized the plan had worked. Han Jing-uk was here, which meant Sanwook was already at his house. I don't understand what this has to do with me. It has to do with you being the cause of all the problems. Before meeting you, Sanwook was a promising heir. Tough, like his father. But now he's gone soft. Maybe he just realized there's another way? Another way? Han Jing-uk laughed. In our world, there is no other way. There's only strength and weakness. You're wrong. No, miss, no. Sanwook is wrong. And so are you. Han Jing-wook raised his pistol, pointing it at Lee Si-yu. When my nephew finds your body, he'll understand that his softness led to tragedy. And then he'll become what he should be again. He'll never forgive you for this. He will. In time. But for now, say goodbye to life. Han Jing-wook's finger moved to the trigger, but at that moment there was a crash. Someone forcefully opened the hall door. Sanwook stood in the doorway, his face white with rage. Uncle, put down the gun. Sanwook? Han Jing-wook turned around in surprise. How did you get here? Your men are talkative. Sanwook had a pistol in his hand, and he held it as if he had been born with a weapon. Let her go, he said quietly. Or what? Han Jing-wook didn't lower his weapon. You'll shoot your own uncle? If necessary, yes. Sanwook, you forget who taught you to shoot. And you forget who was the better student. For some time, uncle and nephew stood facing each other, and tension hung in the air, ready to explode at any second. You know what, nephew? Han Jing-wook finally said. Let's settle this the old way. One shot. Whoever's faster. Uncle. If you win, the girl lives. If I do, she dies with you. Lee Si-yu wanted to scream that this was madness, but Sanwook had already nodded. Fine. Both men lowered their weapons and stepped several paces apart. Han Jing-wook's three subordinates froze against the walls, not daring to interfere. On the count of three, Han Jing-wook said. 1. Lee Si-yu closed her eyes, unable to watch. 2. She could hear her heart beating wildly. 3. 2 shots rang out almost simultaneously. Lee Si-yu opened her eyes and saw Han Jing-wook standing, looking at the red stain spreading on his shirt. Sanwook held a smoking pistol. You were faster, Han Jing-wook croaked and fell to his knees. Forgive me, uncle, Sanwook said quietly. Han Jing-wook fell to the floor and moved no more. Han Jing-wook's three subordinates, seeing their boss's death, tried to draw their weapons, but Sanwook's men burst into the hall, led by Mende. Hyunnim, is everything all right? Mende asked, surveying the scene. Yes. The recordings? Obtained. Mende showed a thick folder. Everything's here. Including compromising material on half the government. Sanwook nodded and approached Lee Si-yu, who was still standing by the wall, not believing it was over. Lee Si-yu, are you okay? She threw herself into his arms, and he held her tightly. I thought he would kill you. He didn't, Sanwook whispered into her hair. It's over. What now? Now we finish what we started. The next morning, all news channels broadcast sensational information. Korea's largest criminal organization had been dismantled after its leader, Choi Sanwook, voluntarily surrendered to authorities and handed over all compromising materials. Sanwook spent 8 months in prison, a sentence he received for cooperating with the investigation. His testimony helped arrest more than 50 people, including several high-ranking officials. Lee Si-yu visited him every week. They made plans for the future, dreamed of the life that awaited them after his release. 2 years after Han Jing-wook's arrest and the dismantling of the criminal network, Lee Si-yu stood before a mirror in a small dressing room, adjusting her veil. Lee Si-yu, are you ready? Her mother asked, entering the room. Hyejin looked younger than her years. Good nutrition and not having to work 3 shifts had done her good. Ready, Mom. Are you happy? Lee Si-yu looked at her reflection. The white dress was simple but elegant. No excess, that's how she wanted her wedding. Very happy. After the wedding, they went to their new home, a small building in the Hongdae district that they had converted into a ballet school. New Beginning Dance School, Lee Si-yu read the sign above the entrance. Do you like the name? Perfect, Sanwook replied. He put his arm around his wife's waist, and they looked at their creation. Spacious halls with mirrored walls, new bars, sound equipment, everything was ready for opening in a week. Do you think we'll succeed? Lee Si-yu asked. We've already succeeded, Sanwook replied. We've created what we dreamed of. A place where talented children from poor families can pursue what they love. Lee Si-yu turned to her husband. You know what I'm thinking about? What? About that girl who fell on the marble floor of the academy a year and a half ago. She dreamed of just dancing. But she got much more. What exactly? Love. Family. And the opportunity to share her dream with others. Sanwook leaned down and kissed her. I love you, no Lee Si-yu. And I love you, Choi Sanwook. Former mafia boss, and now, the best husband in the world. They laughed and entered the school. Ahead of them lay a new life, full of possibilities and hopes.